So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are, in which part of the world. So first I want to thank Noémie and Marta for this great initiative and for inviting me for being the pioneer of this set of activities that the EFC young community decided to launch. I really congratulate the work that you are doing. It's really great. When I was president of EFC, I really fight for having the young community more involved in the EFC activities. And I see now that those seeds have produced a good harvest. So thank you very much for your work and for your volunteer a will to help EFC and to strengthen the corrosion community. Of course, I thank you very much, Noémie, for the very nice introduction words. It was really, from your side, a very nice resume of my career. And I welcome you all for this talk. It's not so common for me to have these non-scientific talks, to speak for the young community is a challenge. But I am very pleased to be here and I hope to reach your expectations. So my talk, it's not very formal, so I will tell you a bit the story of my life, the story of my professional life, and I will take the opportunity to give you some tips, to give you some advices, and at the end, of course, I will be extremely pleased to answer your questions or to give you more suggestions, whatever you think is useful. So my name is Fátima Montemor, as Noémie said. So I'm Portuguese, first of all. I work at Técnico in Lisbon. Técnico is a school of engineering, is the most reputed school of engineering in Portugal. Is also a very strong school in research and development. So we represent around 20% of the community of researchers in Portugal in our areas of activity. So nowadays, I am a full professor at Técnico. I started there many years ago as a student. So I started in 84, so last century, so many years ago, so I'm not so young. I started as a student and I enjoyed it so much that I'm still there. So I graduated from IST, I got my PhD from IST, from Técnico, and I was a researcher, then I became a professor, and today I am involved in a lot of activities at the school. I am a full professor, I am also vice president for research and international affairs, and I do a lot of management activities. I also participate in many activities of my research center. I'm a thematic leader of one of our thematic lines in materials. So currently my team gathers around 16 PhD students and postdocs. And all of them are developing research activities in corrosion protection and energy storage, coordinating, as Noémie informed, several national and international projects. I am an editor of the Applied Surface Science Journal. I am a member of different boards in different areas. I participate in a lot of management activities, in collaboration with different partners, different networks, etc. And well, I'm pleased to have a good track of records in terms of scientific publications and in terms of impact. And so this is a very brief overview, but now I will explain a bit more how I reached this level. And so I think I will start my talk by telling you something like, once upon a time, a little girl was born in the countryside in the middle of Portugal. So I grew in the countryside, in the middle of vineyards and lots of cultures. So my parents, they were farmers. Nowadays they are retired, but they were farmers. And so I had the opportunity, and I was very lucky, to live in the countryside for many, many years. And I have to say that I still live in the same place. So, of course, when I was a young girl, I used to participate in many of the activities here in the farm. And I used to go with my parents for the harvest, for example, to pick up grapes. And I have to say that when I was 6 or 7 years old, and when I looked to the long fields in front of me, and my parents thought, oh, well, we are starting to go to start the harvest today, I thought, my God, this is an impossible task. How can we finish this task? How can we reach the end of this field? How can we collect all these grapes or tomato, if it was a tomato field or a potato field? It was amazing for me to see, almost endless lands, to pick up everything by hand, because at that time machinery was not so abundant. So for me, this was like an enormous challenge in front of me every summer to participate in these activities. Well, of course, that it was actually a strange feeling, because we had a lot of work in front of you, a huge challenge, but then you started. And at the end of the first day, you look back and you could see, okay, I already did a good piece. So, and in the day after, another good piece. And one day after other, and after 1 week, few days, the task was ended. And then you could feel a very nice sensation of, okay, done. I did this job. It was so challenging and I did it. I contributed to it. I'm telling you that because I think these experiences have contributed to the way how I look nowadays for any challenge or for new tasks. So those activities when I was very young, that seemed to me like an endless task, like an enormous challenge, they contributed to shape my character. They contributed to shape my personality, the way how I look to new challenges, the way how I look to new tasks, to new activities. So I learned when I was very young to not be afraid of something new, to not be afraid of an enormous task. So I learned that with work, with motivation, and with a good team, you were always able to reach the end of the task. So we could start, we could do the job, and we could end with success and with fun, because there was a lot of fun here. So, and that has really contributed to shape the way how I look to any new job. And this has been always like this during my career. I love to start new things from the scratch. I am extremely enthusiastic to start new experiences and to start new things, even when they seem almost an impossible mission. as to collect all those grapes in the vineyards of my parents. Looked to me when I was 5 or 6 or 7 years, many years ago. So this is something that I would like to share with you, because I think your personality, the way how you look to the things, is something that starts to grow inside ourselves since we are really very young. And of course, apart from helping my parents, I had to go to the school. I had to ride my bicycle for several kilometers to reach the school every day. It was also a very hard task, because living in the middle of the country has advantages and disadvantages, because normally we are very far away from everything. But it was really a very nice time with a lot of friends and with a lot of fun. Then later, after the high school, I decided to study engineering at technical. And well, when I finished the high school, I was a bit hesitant what to study and where to go. So the information was not so spread as it is today. So there was no internet, for example. You can imagine to live without internet, without Google, to know information. So we didn't access information very easily. But I had the impression that there was a school in the middle of Lisbon, which was the most difficult school in Portugal, also the most demanding school. The courses were very demanding, very challenging. It was very difficult to be admitted. So I decided, okay, here it is a good challenge. Let me try. And I did, and I succeeded because I was admitted. So I was admitted, and I started my started my studies in chemical engineering in '84. And it was a big challenge as well, because I moved from the countryside to the big town, from a very small school to a very big school. So from a school with 100 of students to a school with 10,000 of students. So adaptation was not easy, but as I said, I was used to hard tasks. So I had good and bad moments when I started my studies in chemical engineering. In fact, the school is very demanding. It was very demanding, is still very demanding. So it was really hard times, at least during the first 2 years. But then it became much more interesting, with a lot of interesting courses, with a lot of interesting professors, and with a lot of interesting activities. So I enjoyed it so much that I'm still there. So sincerely speaking, I think I like the place, and I think it was the right decision to start my studies at IST in '84. So I'm still there. So I completed my graduation in chemical engineering, and then what happened next? So the day I finished my graduation, so I was discussing my final project in chemical engineering, and when I was at the 4th year, I got a job. I got a job in industry, and I was for some time at industry in a big factory for doing some for an internship. And well, I enjoyed it because it was a new thing, and I always enjoyed to learn new things. But at the same time, after a couple of weeks, I realized that to work at industry was very boring, because I have to do every day the same tasks, you know. And after 2 weeks or 3 weeks doing the same tasks, I was a bit disappointed, because it was always the same thing every day, no novelty, no new things, nothing. Actually, I tried to convince my supervisors at the company that some of the tasks that I was doing could be more effective if they could be done in a different way. But they did not accept my suggestions. And so I was a bit disappointed, and I said, come on, I'm doing every day the same task. This is not very efficient. I have a more effective solution, and nobody wants to take care of my suggestions. So I completed my internship, but I was not very enthusiastic about a career in industry. So I was really a bit disappointed. Maybe I was unlucky and it was not a good experience. But when I finished my graduation, I was not so excited about the idea of working in a company, although it was quite easy at that time to find a job in industry, and most of my colleagues went to industry. Exactly at the last day, when I was defending my final project, I was invited to work in research. And I thought, okay, here it's a new thing. So I did an internship at industry, so I already know how it works. Now, let me try how research is. What is people doing here in research? So let's try. So I accepted the invitation to work in a project, in a European project in corrosion of steel in concrete. And it was my first experience about corrosion, because I knew very little about corrosion when I started. So I started to be part of a team doing some research work on corrosion of steel in concrete. I stayed there. Initially, I was planning to stay there for 6 months to try to see how it was. And suddenly, I discovered a completely new world. I discovered the magic of science. For the very first time, I was in contact with scientific papers, with a lot of new information, and I had the opportunity myself to start doing something new, something different, and something creative. I was lucky because my supervisor gave me a lot of freedom, so I could really start to do something that I was enjoying to do, and doing a work guided by well-known scientists, by reading the papers, by knowing what the others were doing. It was really an exciting thing, because I could see on it almost an infinite pool of opportunities for having new ideas, new approaches, etc. So I was really very excited when I discovered the magic of research and the magic of reading scientific papers. I was really excited about the idea, and my main aim and objective when I started as a researcher was to write a paper. But I was very unlucky, because I was working in corrosion of steel in concrete, and you have to wait months and years to have good results. So I was a bit sad, because my first paper was very difficult to publish. So I was always speaking about my first paper, and results were very little and very difficult to obtain. And then Professor Mario, who was my supervisor, told me, okay, Fatima, maybe we should go for a PhD. If you are so excited about the idea of doing research and writing papers, maybe we should consider a PhD. And that was also something new for me, because I never thought about it. So, okay, they offered me a fellowship as a PhD student. And okay, I decided to accept. Why not? Because I was really enjoying the experience. So I accepted the position as a PhD student. And it was, of course, a very good decision, but it was also a very hard journey, because I decided to be a PhD student in a topic that was very hard, that was corrosion of steel in concrete. I was the only one working on that topic at my group. There were not so many people, so I was feeling sometimes so alone, like being walking, you know, like this guy here in the picture, carrying out a big weight on my shoulders and having a very unstable way in front of me. So I guess that all the PhD students often feel like this. This is normal. And I want to say that this is very normal. So sometimes you feel that you are alone in your PhD, that you are carrying on your shoulders a huge weight, that you have a lot of pressure, and that you have to really to reach objectives that seem very hard and extremely difficult, and you are always anxious and always waiting for good results in order to publish your paper or to present your results in a conference. So this is really an hard feeling to deal with. So it can be quite difficult, quite hard from the psychological viewpoint. But I have to say that to complete the PhD, it's an hard journey, but at the end, it's a very, very nice feeling of having completed a very difficult job. So, what can I say to you if you are a young student, a PhD student? So I can say that you should take care of yourself, first of all. You need to keep your creativity always on. This is extremely important. You are the owner of your knowledge. You are the one that knows about the subject. So always remember, keep your creativity on, and your supervisor is only for scientific purposes. Never let a supervisor to control your personal or private life. So this is very important. And I've seen, unfortunately, many situations that I don't think are the best ones in terms of completing a PhD with creativity. Don't close yourself in the lab box. This is a mistake. So you should not be closed in your lab box. Otherwise, we will feel like this guy here in the picture, and that's not good. So always speak with your colleagues in your group and be open-minded. Don't be afraid to speak with the others. Don't be afraid to share your results. If you are integrated in a good team, certainly your colleagues aim to contribute for the success of the teamwork, and they will help you. If you feel that you have questions, that you would like to discuss your results, don't hesitate to knock on the door of your supervisor, and don't hesitate to share your problems and your questions with your colleagues. And believe in your capacities, because if you are a PhD student, it's because you really want to do that, and you have capacity, and you have knowledge, and you have the motivation to be creative and to complete the task. Don't give up. If at the middle of a PhD you may feel that you would like to give up, don't do that. If you started, please go to the end, because you are expected to be the best in your topic when you reach the end of your PhD. And during your PhD, please try to participate in different activities, try to participate in different networks. Please attend conferences or workshops or events where there are other students. So please be in contact with others. Start to create your own network, your own connections with other PhD students, and try always to keep connected with others, to see what is going on, to share with others ideas, suggestions, start building collaborations. This is very important. for strengthening your PhD path and for having really an idea of what is going outside your lab box. Don't hesitate to be in contact with industry. Nowadays, industry is very open to participation in PhD programs. So don't hesitate, try to get connected with industry, try to get connected with other researchers. So be an open mindset and out of your lab box. So nowadays, I try to motivate my students, my PhD students, to do this. Of course, this depends a bit on the personality of the person. Some are more open to this than others, but in any case, I think that's the way our PhD should be looked from the student side, and also the supervisor should have this in mind. So I finished my PhD in 95. And then what to do after a PhD? Well, after a PhD, it's again a very another hard journey. So from a PhD to a stable position, you have to climb. You have to climb over postdoc positions and other non-permanent positions, which is again a very hard part of your life, because often institutions are struggling by low funding. And probably you will hear, and some of you are maybe postdocs, and you hear, okay, we are very interested in the person with your profile, but we don't have funding. Oh yes, your curriculum is extremely interesting, but we have little funding, maybe later. Or do you have funding for your postdoc? So this is something that you as postdoc or young researchers will hear often after finishing your PhD and starting to climb over these postdocs and the non-permanent positions towards the objective of reaching or of obtaining a more stable position. You are not the only ones. So typically you start with a lot of people in the same position around you. You have really to climb, and all the others are trying to climb the same wall. And often you start in the bottom of the bottle, but you have to pass through the bottleneck, which is the difficult task. And even if you pass the bottleneck, you may find a stupor at the outside. So this is a really difficult for many people that finishes a PhD and then starts a new journey looking for a more permanent position. You can look for this, I would say, stable position either as researcher or faculty. You can do it inside a university if you want to move to an academic career. You can do this inside of a research organization if you want to get a position as permanent researcher, or you can do this at a company, because there are many companies nowadays recruiting PhD holders. But believe me that the competition is huge. You have really to be the best in order to succeed. So again, I would leave here some tips for the ones that are looking for a job after the PhD. So again, keep in mind that your supervisor is only for scientific purposes. Don't close yourself in the lab box, and keep your creativity on. So this is, as I said before, extremely important. Don't be afraid to explore new topics. Sometimes you may feel that you finish a PhD, you are very good on that topic, and then you don't want to keep on the same topic. Maybe it's not so. Maybe we should consider to change if you identify really an area where you can do a difference as researcher. So don't be afraid to explore new topics. If you really feel that there is an opportunity there that differentiate you from the others. Please remember to strengthen your competencies other than research. So you have to learn how to write papers, good papers, you have to learn how to write projects, you have to learn how to apply for funding. Please strengthen your capacities, your competencies in other activities other than research. Don't be afraid to start to prospect funding for support your research. You have to be proactive on that, okay? Don't wait for the others to give you the money. So you shall start from the very beginning to look for funding to support your own research. Always take the opportunities, all the possible opportunities to contact with other researchers. Keep connected and build your network. So you really need a network of collaborations, and this network of collaborations, they are very important when the institutions are struggling with funding issues. You shall define your milestones. Really, as a postdoc or an early career researcher, you must have very clear in your mind your milestones, what you want to achieve. Don't hesitate to follow your instinct, because normally your instinct is right. And very important, try to write excellent papers. This is very important when you are a young researcher. Always try to write excellent papers, because this will make a difference in your career. If you write excellent papers, they will be cited, they will make an impact, and you start to be noted. And this is very important when you climb towards a more stable or a permanent position. So I passed all this journey. I was postdoc, early career researcher, etc. And during all this path, I always felt I experienced different situations, and there are some aspects that I think are very important to share with you. First, everything you want to do is always limited by budget reasons, which is horrible. So money is always constraining everything you want to do. And in order to overcome this huge barrier, suddenly your job is to write papers, to raise funding, and to mentor other students, especially when you are a young researcher in starting your career. You shall keep a good balance here. So you have to write good papers, you have to raise funding. Don't be just the mentor of other students. Try to participate in these activities as well. So try to get a share of that. And to get funding, to fund your own research, it's like an hard battle. Well, the most I would say the image in my mind, it's just a rugby game or an American football game where where everyone wants to take the ball, and there is just one ball and everyone is fighting for it. So you will feel like this many times in your life as a researcher or as at the start of your academic career. You will be always fighting for money to fund your own research, to start to build your own team. But don't give up and don't be afraid of that, because if you work hard, then you will get it. So, as I said, if you have a good network, then you know a lot of people and you can easily to establish and to start your own projects. And please remember that everyone is looking for the same. So you are not the only one alone trying to get the ball. Others are trying to get it and to score. So you need to be proactive. So you have to work hard, you have to write your own projects, and you have to invite your colleagues and collaborators for these projects. And believe me, sooner or later, you will start to be invited as well. Don't be afraid to explore new topics when you want to write good projects and excellent projects, especially some type of projects that are very centered on the researcher, like the YEFC grants or Marie Curie projects. Evidence your work and the uniqueness of your work. This is also very important. Don't copy the others. Don't try to be like the others. So you have to evidence your work and create your uniqueness. This is very important for being noted and for being original and for finding a place inside the project. It's important to make yourself visible and active in your group. So say yes. I think it's very important to say yes to many invitations and to many activities, even they are not research-centered. Please, if you prospect funding and if you get funding, always keep some funding for yourself, for your students, for your own team. This is very important. You shall think about it since very early. Sometimes you work in groups and with supervisors that are not so easy to convince about this. This can be an art task, an internal art task. It happened to everybody. It happened to me, but you have to overcome that and you have to be sufficiently proactive and sufficiently independent. So you really need to start an independent career, and sometimes it's difficult to find this balance between the teams in which you are integrated and your own ambition and your own objectives. But you should always respect the other's area. That's also very important. So then if you get, for example, as I did, a position as professor at university, so I did a postdoc, then I was a researcher, and then I applied for a faculty position. Not so many years ago, I was a researcher until 2006, and then I applied for a faculty position. So as a professor at university, you have a lot of challenges. And the most difficult task is to keep your students awake and motivated, believe me, because when you are teaching, you know, the most challenging part of your work is to keep your students interested and looking to you and paying attention to you, what you are saying. And believe me, when they are awake, they tend not to pay attention to you. They tend to be doing to do other things that are more interesting than to listen to you. But normally you succeed, so you are able to convince your students that you are an excellent professor, and you can actually be an excellent professor and a top researcher. Well, I am evaluated by my students every year, and I'm getting an excellent diploma every year. So it means that I keep them awake, and I try to shift their attention from the mobile phones to what I'm saying. So if you decide to apply for a faculty position, please remember that you need to keep always a good balance between academic and research activities. There is time for that, and don't use teaching that duties as an excuse to slow down research. This is a mistake. Okay, and don't use research as an excuse to not be an excellent teacher. That's another mistake. So you need really to balance these, because, as I said, you can be an excellent professor and a top researcher. Normally, this requires a bit of more work, but if you really aim to combine these two activities, certainly you will succeed. So if you clip a bit more and you reach a position in which you need to participate in management activities, then your life becomes really difficult. First, because you have endless meetings, one after other, with a lot of people, with a lot of issues to discuss, problems to solve. And you can imagine what happened during these last 3 years with the COVID and all this pandemic situation, in which we had endless meetings, infinite discussions to solve problems that we never imagined. And often you have to deal with a lot of management activities. You have really urgent issues and problems, real problems to solve. And your colleagues are always dealing with some urgent business, and they don't have time to meet with you. They don't have time to discuss with you. They don't have time to help you. And this is really challenging as well. And believe me, top management positions is where the impossible problems arrive, because the simple problems are solved bottom by professors, by administrative offices, etc. So to you, as more as you, as the higher is the level where you are, more complex are the problems and more difficult are the problems to solve. And this can be really hard physically and psychologically, because often you have to deal with very difficult problems and very difficult things. And if you try to keep a good balance between all your activities, you know, being a professor, being a researcher, being a top manager, you have to work hard and more and more and more. So you have really to work for many hours during the day. And you have really to do an effort, a personal effort to accomplish all these tasks. But there is one good point. In the middle of this storm of activities that you have to carry on, research is always the most pleasant one. And every time you meet your students and you go to the lab and you speak during 5 minutes about research, you will feel very relaxed. This will be much better than many good coffee breaks. So if you really can meet your students and have a 5 minutes talk with them about their results and their research, this is like really a relaxing break in the middle of this a storm of activities that you have to push. And of course, it's at the end of the day, it's very grateful when your work is recognized. It's extremely grateful. And I am extremely grateful to all my friends and colleagues that have shared with me the good and the bad moments, because you have a lot of good, but also a lot of bad moments. And it's always great when you have friends and colleagues supporting you during all these moments. It's of course very grateful when your work is recognized by the international scientific community. This is really grateful, and you feel that your life, your academic and professional life is really worth, and you feel very realized. And of course, it's very grateful when your academic peers recognize your value. So this is a really difficult to explain by words, of course, but it's extremely very good when you feel like this and you pass these excellent moments. And finally, I think the ones that more contribute to my success in my career were all the students, all the past and actual students that work with me. It's not, I was lucky because I was their supervisor. I was lucky because they choose me as supervisor. I am lucky because they gave me the opportunity to serve as their supervisor, because they are really excellent researchers and they are always doing a great job and supporting you. So these people, they are really the ones that have contributed significantly for me to reach the positions that I hold today. Of course, I worked a lot, but they also helped me a lot, and I am very thankful to all of them. So this is a bit what I have to share with you, and I am very happy to answer your questions and to listen to you. Noémie, she gave me a list of questions that she has received by email. I have some here listed, but I am pleased to hear your questions and to see what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Fátima, for this very, very inspiring talk. It was great. Like, I really enjoyed. I discovered so many things about you. So there are some questions popping up in the chat. So let's see. Beatrice, if you want, you can just like unmute yourself and ask directly.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm not putting my video on. My webcam is not working. Well, thank you very much, Fátima. This was a very inspiring talk. And I would like to ask you, how is it possible to jump from being considered a young corrosionist to a proper corrosionist? Is it a matter of age or achievements such as publishing or getting grants? I got my position, my academic position 4 years ago. I think that I'm publishing okay and I'm getting grants, but I still feel that I'm not there yet. So do you have any advice?
Well, it takes time. That's my first advice. I'm happy to know that you got your academic position and you are doing well in publications. That's very important. As I said, let me just tell you one important point. You don't need to publish a lot. You need to publish very good papers, you know, really something that differentiates your work from others. And it takes time to be recognized and to have your name well solidified in the area. So, I'm sure that if you continue running and doing a great work and creating a solid team and really developing a work that differentiates a bit from the others, that bring new knowledge and a new impact to the area, so you will reach a recognition and a position that will make you a well-known researcher in the area. And I know your name, Beatrice. I've seen your name in paper, so it means that you are in the good path. Huh?
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, Fátima.
You can, like, someone raise the hand. You can ask your question if you want. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, very good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Arya from NIT Karnataka, Surathkal, Mangalore, India. So I'm happy to see first time Professor Fátima. I'm following your paper.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm working here. I'm teaching and doing research as a faculty. So far, I guided about 4 PhD students and a lot of master students. First of all, thanks a lot. You've given complete journeys, a complete package from the childhood to become the faculty and write the proposal, balance the life. That is most important. Sometimes we forget our family because of the pressure, writing project, defending project, failure project. So many things are there. So thanks a lot for encouraging actually. My question is from India, what I'm struggling is international collaboration. How to get international collaboration or international funding, because funding, we are the, I can say we have a hard work, we can do hard work. We can dedicate complete our life for teaching, research and everything. And when we approach funding agency or maybe the national level, or you talk about international level, then I mean the question is how to grab international. First is a collaboration, second is the funding also. Hope I'm clear. Maybe my pronunciation not that much international level, but I hope so clear.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to know. What is important is really you have your own topic, your own area of research. So you should look for others that are working in similar topics and find good complementarities. You don't need a lot of collaborators, but you need good collaborators and stable collaborations. If you can create really stable links, I'm sure that you will overcome all the potential bottlenecks that you may face. Don't try to collaborate with everybody at the same time, especially when you are starting your career. So just find good collaborators, people willing to really to be proactive and to build something together with you. I think it's more important than to have a larger network with contacts here and there that don't give you anything. Just try to spot some people who can really strengthen your collaborations and share with you ideas, students exchange and projects. I think you will succeed.
Yeah, I mean, just continue same actually, because now research is more on the high-tech instrument, very high quality instrument. Then we can publish in Nature or, the Science or big journals. So when we are lacking, we have a knowledge, same thing, everything we can do. But we are lacking sometime with the great instruments where we require very in situ TEM or in situ XPS or something. So in that area, we are lacking to develop the science. Suppose I develop some material, I want to characterize, something is missing actually. And then we are lacking to submit paper in a high quality journal where we know that the quality may not be suitable in that particular journal.
Well, I have to say that I don't have any of those fantastic techniques. I wonder to have, but I don't have. We don't have funding for them. And believe me, you can do a lot of impact in research just by writing good fundamental papers. If you look back to the 80s, 90s, there was not so sophisticated equipment, and most of the cited papers are from those times. There are many authors with a lot of citations and research that did a lot of impact those times without having these equipments. Of course, these equipments are essential if really want to publish fast and have very nice results. But that's not the main reason. And believe me, I don't have any.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. For a matter of time, because we are reaching kind of the hour, is there any question? I don't see any in the chat, and I think you answer most of the questions that people ask in your talk. So thank you so much for joining for this very great and inspiring launch of this webinar series. I'm very glad. It was very cool. So the recording will be posted on LinkedIn and maybe on the website. We still have to clear that up. But yeah, so thank you so much for the audience for joining. Thank you, Fátima, for this great talk, and see you soon, all of you, at other events.
Thank you very much for organizing extraordinary lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and all the success for